Good afternoon and happy Friday to all of you. This is Omar Sado with the Tilted Lawyer podcast. There were like 7 different answers filed late last night. My best YouTube friend, Lauren Nighty, broke the story, as a matter of fact. And we were supposed to stream together last night. We were supposed to do like a dual stream, and it just didn't work out because I forgot that I promised my girls 4 and 6 now that we're going to go watch the new movie Snow White. Which, by the way, if you're into that sort of thing, it was a decent movie. What could you say? It was a good rendition of Snow White. It was a remake, obviously. Anyway, that derailed our dual streaming plans between me and Lauren. She may pop in to this show if she's not busy with work. She actually does work as a clinical psychologist or something like that, or does clinical therapy. She does real important work out in her regular day job when she's not breaking news on this Baldoni case. I have specifically titled this case, the thumbnail anyway, Blake Lively is so effed. It just appears to me from the pleadings that she has a tougher show of whatever it is that she's trying to prove. She's lacking on evidence, and it really shows in some of these answers. Generally, you don't really get to derive much from the answers. Obviously it's not a slam dunk. Nothing is ever a slam dunk. You never know what's going to happen. But I'm not going to go word for word through all. How many is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm not going to go through all 7 complaints word for word. I might go through Justin's because there's some interesting stuff in it. I'm going to differentiate between any new evidence that was presented, because in a complaint, you're essentially having to admit or deny each specific allegation. And I thought that all of the parties admitted specific things that were going to be important in the case, that make them tribal issues, which means that it's not going to be an outright motion to dismiss. I think the biggest problem that Lively has is any semblance of proving that she's going to show malice. She has to show malice with respect to this smear campaign. She's claiming there's a smear campaign against her, and good for her. The problem with that is she has to show that people so hated her that they maliciously intended to spread false lies about her. And good luck with that, because you have the evidence that's coming out is, hey, so we knew that Lively was going to be a problem. And I was brought in specifically, Jed Wallace was brought in specifically to analyze the situation and figure out what to do. And my analysis was, you know what? I don't think I have to do anything. It seems like she's doing it to herself. And so there was allegations that were admitted regarding publications. There were outright denials that anything that was published was knowingly false or recklessly false. What Lively is going to have to prove is the malicious aspect of it. And good luck with that when her and her PR team are accused of the exact same thing. And Ryan Reynolds, in his dumbass motion to dismiss, almost outright admitted to defaming Justin Baldoni. I mean, the more thought that I put into his motion, there's no question that he calls him a sexual predator. He's going to have to admit that, right? A sexual predator. He's going off the premise that, look, I've been listening to this guy's content all of his life. I've been reading his books all of my life. I've been studying this guy from the time that he was a teenager until now. And by his own very admissions, he admitted to being sexual predator at some points in his life without giving any context, without giving any kind of background to the story that Baldoni was telling for years and years and years. And you have what appears to be admissions that he was at certain events and that he was defending his wife on several aspects, which I think is very easily going to be turned into by the defense team to malicious intent on the part of Ryan Reynolds. For what motive? Well, one would be to take over the film. I mean, that's a pretty easy one, right? The second would be that he was jealous of Justin Baldoni. Like an 8th grader that, was not the center of attention. He puts on this stupid wig or this man bun thing and does the the nice pool bullshit, whatever that was. I mean, where do you see that except for like in junior high? Hey, fuck that guy. He's getting way too much attention. Let's make fun of his ass. It's how it came off the entire time. His immature, nonsensical outburst at Justin that really is not denied. The context is disputed. The meeting with everybody there when it appeared to be that why is Reynolds going so hard in on Justin Baldoni? And then there was like this thought that, okay, so if you thought that he's such a sexual predator, why did you co-sign on him being your wife co-starring in a movie with him about domestic violence? At what point were you tipped off to the sexual predation, if that's what you're going to go with? This idea of the sexual predator, it is my opinion that he is a sexual predator. No, sir, you can't just, okay, you could have a lot of opinions, but sexual predator has a lot of connotations. I think that the language specific to that, their argument that it's no different than calling somebody crazy or calling somebody a freak. Yeah, it does. It has legal meaning. There are legal statutes that are derived from that language. Sexual predator. Sexual annoyance of a minor, sexual predator. It has sexual predator in the statute, in the language of a statute, where people prey upon those that are vulnerable for various reasons. There are statutes all over the country that allude to what a sexual predator is. The media has designated that term to people within the industry, such as Harvey Weinstein, Bill Cosby, and a host of others. When you call somebody that in Hollywood, it's not just opinion, man. It's like it is a label that can cripple and delete. And so when I say that Lively and her lawsuit is so effed, I kind of just feel like she has made certain admissions in this case that sound like not she, I mean specifically Reynolds. She hasn't really made any admissions like that, but Reynolds specifically, that very admission that he's been tracking Baldoni all these years, and in his opinion, he's a sexual predator, and sexual predator is my opinion, it's not such a big deal as this derogatory word, is not going to fly, man. It is not going to fly. And you know what? If I was defense counsel on the strength of that motion, and I'm glad that Freeman came out and basically lambasted Lively's motion to dismiss, Ryan Reynolds' motion to dismiss, whatever one it was, taking advantage, abusing the pleadings process, abusing the legal process to continue to defamatorily smear Justin Baldoni is kind of, I mean, I made the comment that it was slimy. There is a lot more strong language that I could use other than that, but that's what it is. Anyways, you guys didn't tune in to hear me rant. You came in to watch me break down some legal complaints. So let me get to that after our real intro. I'll see you all in about 30 seconds.
Whatever you might be going through and wherever you might be, this is Omar Sado with the Tilted Lawyer Podcast. I'm here to take your mind off of things. Yes, I'm an attorney. No, I'm not giving you legal advice. We're going to sit and talk like people, as these are the candid thoughts of one practicing attorney, and it's after hours. So have a seat. Feel free to have a drink and join me. Let's get started.
All right, folks. So like I always do, I'm just going to give you the gist. We're not going to go word for word today because I don't got, but 67 minutes to get through this episode. So my reading of the pleadings is not going to be much of a thing. I might refer to some of the stuff. But here are some of the highlights. So Baldoni, he has to admit certain things. Let me just pull up his complaints. In the off chance that I'm going to refer to it, he admits, factual background stuff. He admits his role as the Wayfarer co-chair, director, actor that Lively starred in with the film. He admits all those things. He denies any engaging in any unwelcome or inappropriate behavior while on set. That was specific in paragraph 12. His specific sentence was in paragraph 12. Oh, crap. I pulled up his amended complaint. way to go, man. Way to have that lined up. We're doing great. We are doing great. Oh, now I'm getting noises thrown at me. Okay. Well, let me get out of that thing. Oh, crap. Folks, this is a me problem. It is not a you problem. I have to go into here where I saved it in this folder and in there. All right. Well, shit. All right. So never mind that. He denies unwelcome, inappropriate behavior. He pushes back against any sexual harassment allegations. He does confirm, though, that he sent a text acknowledging Lively's concerns during production. That's a new thing. That's never really been acknowledged, not even in the timeline. But he denies that it concerned any kind of sexual harassment or anything. He sent a text messages acknowledging certain concerns by an actress. That's all he admits. His denial is focused on, look, she had concerns, I addressed them. But it wasn't inappropriate. It wasn't, this weird behavior. It's not what she's claiming it to be. It was not harassing behavior. There was an exchange there. He does it in a couple different places in his complaint, including to the extent that the complaint suggests that the communication is harassing behavior. He denies that it was. He was literally responding to something that Lively had sent him. He admits a January 4th, 2024 meeting occurred with Lively, co-producer Alex Sachs, an outside producer, Todd Black, where Ryan Reynolds was present. That was the blow-up, where Reynolds kind of just had this outburst at Justin. He indicated the seriousness of the situation. He says a meeting takes place January 4th, and that attendees of the meeting included the people that we had mentioned. But just specifically outright, I didn't do anything. There was nothing wrong. Baldoni acknowledges that the production paused for the Hollywood strikes and later resumed. He talks about that. He admits that Wayfarer hired a PR consultant, Melissa Nathan, and the agency group, and that Nathan delivered a PR proposal with specifically to address stuff going on with Lively. But he denies that it was in retaliation to anything. He was playing defense. He's kind of alluded to that the entire time. Oh, I know what I did with it. I found it. I know what I did. There we go. All right. Yeah, so there's the paragraph 12 and all the other stuff. And all right, cool. All right, just in case I need it. All right. In his answer, he talks about, he asserts standard legal defenses. I'm not going to go over all that. He talks about her failure to state a claim. He talks about First Amendment protection. He talks about malice. He asserts some affirmative defenses, as does everybody else. None of that was really remarkable. He did plead that any statements made were in good faith without malice, specifically without malice. How are you going to prove malice with Justin Baldoni when at the same time they keep on mentioning about how he at every opportunity would praise Blake Lively about her good work and her genius level acting skills and all this and that, her fashion sense, her keen eye on dialogue. And, it was like, it was kind of sad to listen to. Like he at every opportunity, it felt like Blake Lively was looking for some kind of acknowledgement of her genius. And at every opportunity, Justin Baldoni seemed unafraid to accommodate those requests. I had mentioned when I was reading the complaint that he's going to get himself into trouble doing that every single time. And sure enough, here we are. Now it's considered inappropriate behavior. Somehow it's considered an admission as some kind of knowledge of guilt that he is effusing all of this praise on Blake Lively. That's how they're going to spin it. That's how they have spin it. He says there's no wrongful acts that occurred in California whatsoever. There were some key admissions. He confirms, obviously, there was a PR plan and a high-level meeting. He provides new evidence of the defendant's responses to Lively's concerns with key denials, no harassment, no retaliatory campaign, no malice. He directly refutes Lively's core allegations of a revenge-driven campaign. And I'm going to skim through this a little bit just so you guys can get the flavor of it. How do I share my thing with you? Here you go. Here you go. Was it that? Yeah. Okay. So you guys, I'm sure most of you guys have already gone through this with Lauren Knighty, or others. I'm sure others have gone word for word through this. These are just answering the allegations in paragraph 5, 6, 7, just the boilerplate stuff. We're going through formalities. Paragraph 12, defendant denies that he engaged in unwelcome behavior. As to the remaining allegations, defendant lacks knowledge or information sufficient to form a belief about the truth of such allegations. So when you have a complaint like this, when you're answering it this way, you're basically posing a response to every single allegation. That's either I admit or I deny or I don't have enough information. And so he kind of does all, two of those in paragraph 12. He denies allegations specific in paragraph 12. As to the remaining, he doesn't have knowledge or information sufficient to form a belief about the truth of such allegations. They make you do that when you're answering a complaint. 13, he answers the allegation in paragraph 13. He admits that Baldoni sent a text message acknowledging certain concerns by an actress on the film and stating that they would be addressed appropriately. Defendant denies all remaining allegations. Paragraph 14, he denies that Wayfarer failed to investigate the reported conduct or implement any protection. That is an important one. That goes to specifically one of the causes of actions that was given rise through the CRD complaint. It was specifically that Wayfarer had a duty to investigate claims brought to their attention on set. Failure to investigate could make them liable for specific causes of action in Lively's complaint. And so he's specifically denying. And that's the reason why. And that's why kind of these answers, they don't really mean, of course he's going to deny it. It's basically, it's almost the equivalent to an arraignment in a criminal hearing where you're charged with something. Are you guilty or not guilty? Obviously, you're going to say not guilty, and it doesn't mean a whole lot because you're about to litigate the case. So, but it sets the stage for they are contesting that cause of action. Paragraph 15, he admits that production of the film was shut down for a period of time. Paragraph 16, he admits that It Ends With Us Movie LLC entered into the document entitled Protections for Return to Production. But this is also kind of corroborating. So this is kind of the chess match between the two of them. So this document is really important for both sides, really. From Blake Lively, this document, Protections for Return to Production, is going to be evidence that they were aware that certain inappropriate behavior was being conducted and that their acquiescence to these demands was evidence of a guilty conscience. Baldoni is going to take that same document and say this is an example of Blake Lively's true intentions to break protocol, breach a contract. I know that there were contracts that were not signed. That's not the end of the story with that, is the too long didn't read version of it. The point is, whether or not there was a signed contract, she was brought to the production of the film with a specific understanding that she was going to play a role. That role was the actress, one of the main characters in this movie. She was going to be paid a specific sum of money. There were going to be protections in place. All of those were in writing and presented to her. She said that she was going to sign contracts. She showed up to productions as if she was going to sign the contract. She continued production for a period of time without signing the contract. It wasn't just nudity writers. There was other contractual provisions. So just because you didn't sign the contract, that doesn't mean that you're not bound to the terms of a written contract. Because if you acquiesce or if you show up on set, like for example, let's just say you're hired for a position and you're presented with an employment contract. They're going to pay you a specific wage. You're going to do a specific job. They have a start date for you. And then you show up to work that day and you start working for them. You get paid by them when they said that they were going to pay. But you never signed the employment agreement. Does the employer then have no binding reason to pay you any money? Could they just say, we don't owe you this money and sign the contract? No, bullshit. You guys had talked about a contract. You guys had agreed verbally to an employment contract with specific terms as they were presented at the time of the forming of the contract. Employee shows up to work the same way that was agreed upon. He did the work that was written about in the contract, and you paid him what you said you were going to pay him. In the eyes of the law, that's good enough. That's just as good as a signature. It is implied consent. It is implied consent to be bound by the contract by your actions. So just because she didn't sign stuff, that doesn't mean that she's not still bound by the terms of the contract. It just means we have to figure out what specific terms we're talking about, because they changed the rules so many times in this case. It's kind of hard to pin down. But that's why the breach of contract stuff is a thing in this case. And that's why it's one of the bigger triable issues within this case. Paragraph 16, he admitted that they entered into this document. Right. He denies that Lively made any formal complaints, which is weird because she says that she did. Actually, she said that she tried to make a formal complaint and she was told that she was in the wrong place to make it somewhere else. So I guess maybe that's true. I forget the specifics on that. So denial that Lively made formal complaints. Denial that Wayfarer failed to investigate. Or address any such complaints, and that the protections for return to production were designed to require Wayfarer to cease any on-set behavior of Baldoni and Heath, or remedy any alleged misconduct. That's important. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Defendant denies all of the remaining allegations. He denies the allegations in paragraph 16. He admits in paragraph 18 that Wayfarer sent communications containing the text set forth in that paragraph. Defendant lacks knowledge or information sufficient to form a belief as to allegation. What is he specifically talking about? I'll pull up that complaint. It was the FAC, first amended. Here we go. Lively v. Baldoni. No, that's the original complaint. Here it is, paragraph 18. So what's she talking about in paragraph 18? In paragraph 18, she was stating specifically after receiving the document, Wayfarer responded that Wayfarer Sony Production respectfully acknowledged that Ms. Lively has concerns regarding safety, professionalism. Although our perspective differs in many aspects, ensuring a safe environment for all is paramount, irrespective of differing viewpoints regarding your outlined requests. We find most of them not only reasonable, but also essential for the benefit of all parties involved. That's the text message that they're talking about. Defendant lacks knowledge. Defendant denies. Okay. Paragraph 19, defendant admits that a meeting took place on January 4th. We're talking about that again. In paragraph 20, he denies. 21, he admits the production resumed on January 5th. Talked about that. Paragraph 22, he lacks knowledge to answer. 23, he admits that Heath sent a communication, some of which contains the text set forth in that paragraph. Defendant denies all of the remaining allegations in that paragraph. So paragraph 23, what are they talking about? They're talking about this. Leading up to and in connection with the release of the film during the summer of 2024, Ms. Lively and fellow cast members promoted the film in accordance with the marketing plan rated and delivered by the film's distributor, Sony, which is summarized in the talking points. Ms. Lively and other cast members were under a contractual obligation to engage in media and stuff. The marketing plan directed the cast to focus more on Lively's strength and resilience as opposed to describing the film as a story about domestic violence, and to avoid talking about this film that makes it feel sad or heavy. It's a story of hope. Wayfarer endorsed this plan in an email to Sony on August 11th. Mr. Heath described the marketing of the film to date as brilliant and fantastic, and noted that we are not saying it's been inappropriately marketed in any way. They're admitting that. Entering paragraph 24, they deny. Paragraph 25, defendant lacks information. 26, they deny. They deny 27, 28. They admit 29 that Wayfarer retained Melissa Nathan, agency group PR, and that Nathan delivered a proposal containing the text set forth in that paragraph, in paragraph 29. And what are we talking about there? We are talking about this. On July 31st, following the recommendations of their publicist Jennifer Abel, Wayfarer and Mr. Baldoni retained a crisis communications specialist named Melissa Nathan. This is admitted. And her company, Agency PR Group. Miss Nathan delivered a proposal. You know, it'd probably be helpful if I put these together, wouldn't it? Let me see if I could do that without breaking anything. Please don't break anything. All right. Open. There we go. Now I can just go back and forth. All right, so they're at 29. We're at 29. Is that on your guys' screen? It's not, is it? Here, let me fix this. Let's just do it like this. We're going to do it like this. We're doing it live. Okay. Here we go. Yes, that works. All right, so paragraph 29. They're admitting this. Let me make this bigger. Get rid of that. Miss Nathan delivers a proposal to Mr. Baldoni, which included a website to discuss, full Reddit, full social account takedowns, full social crisis team on hand for anything, engage with audiences in the right way, start threads of theories. This is the way to be fully 100% protected. Protected is the key word. Miss Nathan also proposed the creation of social fan engagement to go back and forth with any negative accounts, helping to change narrative and stay on track. All of this will be most importantly untraceable. And Miss Abel described it. The plan was to engage in social media mitigation and proactive fan posting to counter the negative as well as social manipulation. So when they're admitting it, this is how they're admitting it. They're saying, defendant admits that Wayfarer retains Melissa and this agency, and that Nathan delivered a proposal containing the text set forth in that paragraph. So there's a text message. It's this highlighted in this bold and italicized language. Defendant denies all of the remaining allegations. It wasn't for all the other stuff that she had talked about. 30 denies. He admits 31 that Nathan delivered the scenario planning document attached as Exhibit D to the complaint. Defendant denies all the... So he admits there was a scenario planning document. The way that Lively frames it is... Tag circulated a scenario planning document to Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, and others, which describe preparations and strategy. Should Miss Lively and her team make her grievances public? To get ahead of this narrative, Miss Nathan's plan proposed strategies to advance misleading count. This is what they're denying. All of this stuff. To advance misleading counteractives, including pushing Miss Nathan's narrative that Miss Lively had a less than favorable reputation, proposing to explore planting stories about the weaponization of feminism and all of that. Denied. 32, they admit that Baldoni and Heath sent communications containing the text set forth in that paragraph, but they deny all the remaining stuff. So they are admitting Baldoni and Heath were going back and forth about the stuff in that paragraph. Paragraph 32 is, Mr. Baldoni expresses concerns about Tag's written plan, was insufficiently aggressive to protect him. Writing to Mr. Heath and Miss Abel, he said he was not in love with the document they sent. Not sure I'm feeling the protection I felt on that call with Miss Nathan and her colleagues. And in response, Mr. Heath attempts to reassure Mr. Baldoni that they had found the right people for the campaign. Mr. Heath's words, the most important part of this is how quickly they can shut things down and place stories in your favor. So that's an interesting admonition. Because there's not, there's an admission about this text message. They're not stating that the text message was manipulated. They're not denying he didn't use that language. So this language is correct. This is the first time I've personally gone through scenario planning with them. So I think let's let them discuss the thinking behind the document and the actual process and protocol of how they implement these things. That's the most important part of this, is how quickly they can shut things down. That's language that they're going to say leads towards the path of malicious intents, or shut them down in terms of Lively's assault on Justin Baldoni. So that would be the juxtaposition of the two positions. 33, lacks knowledge. 34, lacks knowledge. Admitting 35 that there were communications containing the text sent back and forth. So in 35, there's a text message, and the text message was this text message. Yes, I literally just spoke to Melissa about this on the break, about what we discussed last night for social and digital, focus on Reddit, TikTok, IG. So in other words, look, nobody's disputing that there was a plan to deal with Lively. Nobody's disputing that these text messages were not real. It's just not in the context that Lively is trying to frame it with in her complaint. That's why we have trials. 36, they lack knowledge. 37, they deny. 38, defendant denies, lacks knowledge, admits in 42 that the defendant issue a statement prepared by Lively and her reps on or about August 12, 2024. Defendant lacks knowledge or information sufficient to form a belief as to the truth of that allegation, that Nathan sent communications containing the text set forth in the paragraph. As to all remaining allegations, defendant denies. So they admit that Lively demanded the defendant issue a statement. And that's all they admit. 43, defendant lacks knowledge. Defendant denies, lacks. Okay. I'm just looking for the admissions, really. I know that they deny or are going to deny most of the other stuff. This requires 48, requires no response because they merely state a legal conclusion. What was their legal conclusion in 48? It was this. For all your law students out there, don't write like this. By this, I mean specifically this. Indeed, these facts are not in dispute. Mr. Baldoni and Wayfarer parties have already admitted that Ms. Lively raised concerns multiple times. They admitted that they created a plan in which they planned to plant stories suggesting. They admitted that their team was able to bury anyone. They admitted that they bragged and laughed at how negatively their narrative had shifted against Lively and how successfully they were confusing people. They admitted that within, and they did. In other words, this is their interpretation of evidence. These are not allegations of fact. And so therefore they don't have to respond to it. That's their characterization. It doesn't really fly. Get rid of that. Oh, wait a minute. Hey, Lauren might be coming in. Sending link now. Let me just send my good friend Lauren Knighty a link real quick as I pause. Okay. Invite, copy. Done. All right, we may be getting visited by Lauren Knighty at some point. I guess we should be so lucky. All right. If she's in the chat and you guys, and I don't catch it for whatever reason, just let me know. I've done that before. I left her in the back, in the green room for like 30 minutes, and then she just dipped. Completely forgot. Or just didn't get the notification that she was in. All right, back to this. Yeah, the reason, that's what they're talking about. They're just stating their opinions, their characterization of what they deem these facts to be, and we have no response to that. Don't write like that if you're a law student. If you're going to allege something, then allege it. 49 requires no response, admits the allegation. They're admitting 50, that Lively sent defendant a communication enclosing her administrative complaint to the CRD on or about December 20th. So there was a complaint. There's not much there. Answering the allegation, 51 denied, lacks, denies such allegations, admits. We're admitting in 56. What are we admitting? We're admitting that Blake Lively is an actress and an entrepreneur. Yeah, we'll admit that. Sure. Why not? 57, defendant admits that Wayfarer is a studio co-founded by Baldoni and Sarowitz. That Wayfarer, there's this stuff. We're denying 58. What's 58? 58, that Baldoni is a co-founder and co-chairman of Wayfarer who co-starred and directed and produced Mr. Baldoni. Why are they denying 58? Oh, denies that he served as a producer on the film. That's what it was. 59, he admits. All right. These were just more or less like identifying allegations, so I'm not going to go through all of them. All right, so 74 allegations require no response against their legal conclusion. He admitted 73 that it contracted with JonesWorks for certain communications and PR services, and that defendant has alleged that it had a contract with the New York Times as to all remaining allegations. Defendant denies. And this is the paragraph that we're talking about in 73. As just a few examples, on January 4th, Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath, in their own capacities and as representatives of Wayfarer, met in person in New York with Miss Lively to discuss her concerns about Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath's harassing behavior and other on-set misconduct that started the sequence of events leading to the suit. And Sarowitz threatened to ruin the lives of Miss Lively and her family. While attending the film's New York premiere, Miss Abel worked as employee of JonesWorks. New York during stuff. Well, that was just one. That was like a dozen different allegations in one paragraph, wasn't it? Anyway, what they admit of that paragraph is specifically that there was a contract with JonesWorks, but he denies all the rest of the bullshit. 74, no response because they're just stating legal conclusions. He's admitting 75 that Baldoni launched Wayfarer along with Sarowitz in 2020, just identifying stuff. What else are they saying about it? Anything interesting that I missed? 75. Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath have positioned Wayfarer as a male feminist platform that explores gender roles, dismantles toxic masculinity, and creates a safer, judgment-free society for women. And their response to that was, well, just no response, because they merely stated legal conclusion. To the extent that any of the remaining allegations in paragraph require a response, defendant denies such allegations. In other words, you don't get to find what I do. 76. Defendant admits that Baldoni serves as a co-founder and co-chairman of Wayfarer, that he served as director and co-lead actor playing the role of Kyle Kincaid in the film, and that Sony served as distributor for the film. As to the remaining allegations, defendant denies. He admits that production began on May of 23. Denies. He admits that Baldoni and Lively filmed a slow dance scene for a montage scene. Denies the rest of it. Really, like I said, the only really relevant, important part about these answers is the stuff that he's admitting. Because admissions sometimes give rise to motions or summary judgment, moves to dismiss, and that kind of stuff. In other words, if you admit something that fundamentally makes a cause of action true, then what are we doing? Motion for summary judgment right now. Because if he admitted that, then we have no need to go any further. He admits the slow dance scene, admits that Lively called Baldoni a sociopath. He admits that an article in the Hollywood Reporter contained the text quoted therein. What was the text in 83? In 83, the text was, This is not just my Lively's view. Mia Schachter, an independent and experienced intimacy coordinator, noted in response to an inquiry from the Hollywood Reporter, the footage shows Mr. Baldoni trying to kiss her, and they clearly haven't discussed that ahead of time. Like hell they didn't. And she keeps pulling away and clearly doesn't want to do that. Improved intimacy in this scene would not have been flagged for an intimacy coordinator in advance, as Schachter explained, because in the script, they're just slow dancing. There's not any mention of any physical intimacy. Stop, Chode.
Dude, that was quick. Usually it takes you 40 minutes to notice I'm backstage.
Well, I was listening for it this time. Last time I missed it, and you're sitting there like twiddling your thumbs for 30 minutes.
Twiddling my thumbs? You're twiddling your thumbs, bro. Your thumb was in your butthole. You didn't even see me back there. What are you talking about?
Fucking gross.
I agree. You should stop doing that. Like, what?
That doesn't sound like a good time.
For you, maybe. I don't know, man.
Anyway, what do you think about? I know you spent like 3.5 hours yesterday reading through all of the shit when I was watching.
Which one? Because I did like 5 hours in total, but I don't know which one you're talking about right now.
I mean, I'm on Justin right now. I'm just focusing really on the admissions. I don't know what you focused on, but I've refused to read all the denials and refusals to talk about stuff.
Yeah,
I focus on just the stuff.
Even I skimmed over that a bit, or a lot actually. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the only real relevant portions of this stuff is what he's admitting. And he's admitting, what you thought he would admit. So there's not really any big surprise there.
Yeah. All the really interesting stuff was in the response to Jones.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I forgot why I was looking at because he admitted that there was stuff in the Hollywood article that contained the quoted text. He admits paragraph 84, which was that Miss Lively complained about inappropriate behavior as early as May 2023. Mm-hmm. Which occurred without any intimacy coordinator present because she didn't want to sign the stupid thing.
Everybody I feel like everyone's leaving that out for some reason.
Well, it's pretty important because
that's why I was being sarcastic, but yeah.
Oh, and well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. You're more in tune to who's leaving things out than I. Being the bearer of all breaking news, Baldoni versus Lively, or other way around. But yeah, I don't understand how you can have evidence of the workup of an intimacy coordination agreement where you could have these nudity writers and they've clearly been worked on. They've clearly been discussed, like they're sitting having like a coffee or something. Mm-hmm. And it's fully drafted and it's presented to her for signatures. And we don't need it. And then they just proceed. And then, but she didn't sign like any of her shit. Like she signed some things, not everything. There's a lot of things she didn't sign. Mm-hmm. But as I was explaining earlier, it doesn't fucking matter. She didn't sign it. Like, I would even argue that the nudity writers that they had concocted would still be relevant if they proceeded with an intimacy scene. Mm-hmm. They would probably still be bound by the terms of that unsigned nudity writer, if that makes sense. Yeah. Even the part, they'd have to modify it, that an intimacy coordinator must be present at all times. Well, she waived it because she told the coordinator to fuck off. Or just whatever she said. She didn't say
There's
like that.
There's no intimacy coordinator. You wouldn't meet with the intimacy coordinator. What do you mean there's no intimacy coordinator? That's so
problematic if you want to do it like that, man. Just
like there are actual like messages showing that she would not meet with the intimacy coordinator, and you still have people on the internet who are just like, there was no intimacy coordinator. Why would they do that? They're not supposed to do that. I'm like, well, they fucking tried to have one.
What is the biggest arguments you've heard in support of Lively in her? Like, what? I know there's some. There's like a handful.
Drooling and dribble, mostly. I don't know.
Yeah, you showed me some text messages and stuff.
Yeah, no, I did. No, it really is just like they're saying basically that it's wrong for us not to believe a woman who says she was sexually harassed and went through all this stuff. And basically, there's like no. That's the argument from most people that I know and have seen have been on her side. It's like most people, they don't even cite any evidence or anything. They have not seen any of these documents. They've maybe read the Hollywood Reporter a couple times. They're not like really paying attention. There's nothing behind this argument except for, well, you should believe her because it's what she says. And that just doesn't work for me.
It's wrong to not believe when a woman accuses a man of a thing.
That's bullshit because people of all, man, woman, if you want to be on a gender spectrum these days, whatever, all of them lie. Like people lie. It happens.
There was literally a case I saw on TikTok the other day where this lady, they were playing a recording of her in court where she was being recorded. It must have been a one-party state or something, where she was literally saying, if you don't want to sign the agreement and you don't want to pay me child support, then I'm calling the cops and I'm going to tell them that I'm afraid of you. And I'm going to tell them that this and that. I'm going to tell them that you hit me. And you know what? You're never going to see your kids. I will make sure of it. And she's just like going on. And it's like, oh yeah, how dare you disbelieve a woman? Look, man, I've been an attorney for 11 years. There's a lot of reasons not to just believe things.
Well, here's what I sometimes will counter people who say you have to believe all women or it's wrong not to believe women. So I had this, I probably told you at least part of the story. I had an ex that I lived with. We were engaged and she had a kid. And so I had this like little family for a while. And then she started having an issue with pills and she got really, into other kinds of drugs and stuff. And I caught her cheating and I made her, move out, and it was a hard time. And it turns out like she was talking to this other guy and then she started trying to get him to take her back because I guess there was some overlap. This guy and I never knew about each other. So she starts telling him like, I left you and I couldn't come back to you because she was beating me and she was abusing me and all this shit. So like claiming that I did that. And I was just like, I would fucking never do that. Like I'm sitting here raising your child while you're out there doing cocaine and like jerking off your drug dealer. Like it was all this crazy stuff she was doing. And then she's trying to tell this guy, because people, when they're backed into a corner and they can't get what they want and they feel like it's going to go really bad for them, they might just say anything. And so luckily that guy and I got in touch and we talked and we figured out there was some overlap between us. And we figured out that she was saying a lot of untrue things about both of us. And so people do lie. And like, how would you feel if like you had a loved one in that situation? Which I would say to people who say that they'll believe all women thing. What if it was, me in this situation? What if somebody said that about me? What if you had a son that was in that situation? They said that about him, and that that's not true. That can't be true. But and then they would think like, oh, that's different. But it's not. Justin is someone's son. He's someone's brother. He's someone's husband, someone's father.
I'll tell you what. Do you know how many? I don't know what percentage, but of the domestic violence complaints that I get in my office, a really high percentage of them involve accusations of infidelity. And I don't know what that's about, man. Like somebody gets caught doing something bad and then they want to somehow become the victim or victimize themselves. Right. Or, I don't know. But it is such like a knee-jerk reaction to just like say, oh, I'm afraid of you because you're looking at me funny. And I caught, this one guy caught his wife on the phone with some guy or whatever, her lover, and then she tells him that she wants a divorce, and then like he had a moment. It was like in the moment he starts yelling at her. Doesn't put his hands on her, but he's having a moment. It's like, Jesus Christ, I just discovered my 18-year marriage is ending. Mm-hmm. And then she straight up calls the cops, gets them out of there. There's a forced move out order because of claims of false domestic violence. Yep. There's no injuries. But she took pictures of injuries the following day. And then she tries to, the bruise didn't form right away. It's like, oh, okay. Now, I don't know, man.
I mean, a lot of times, I do feel like a lot of times when people lie about this stuff, it comes from like a place of shame about their role and why things went wrong. Like she didn't want her family to know that she was doing drugs and all that. She didn't want them to like look at her differently for being caught cheating. Like after we had sent out some save the dates and everything for the wedding. And it's just like, she didn't want all this shame of like, oh, it was actually my fault, or this shouldn't have gone this way and it's my fault. So what can I do to make things better for myself?
It's kind of been my theory about this case specifically. Mm-hmm. And just like what you're just saying, that I feel like this is what it feels like to me. It feels like Ryan Reynolds at some point became jealous. Mm-hmm. Did he catch some text messages? Did he notice him or Lively having too much text time with Justin Baldoni? Was he starting to feel a certain kind of way? And then he confronts her about it. And then she's like, oh, well, I don't know. He's just so inappropriate. And he texts me all the time and he's saying all this stuff. He keeps wanting to share his sexual history. And then it becomes, hey, that guy's a sexual predator and fuck that guy. And then it's like, how dare you ask my wife how much she weighs and how dare you all this and that. And then the nice pull thing and whatever. That's how shit like that starts. Some kind of accusation. Oh, I'm innocent. He's the guilty party. I'm just trying to be nice. And then we go down this whole rabbit hole and we're involved in the biggest Hollywood scandal of the last 25 years. Well, I don't know if this is bigger than Johnny Depp v. Heard.
I obviously wasn't on YouTube at that time. I don't, what year was that exactly when the Johnny Depp
23, 22 maybe?
I remember Are you sure? I think it was longer ago than that, wasn't it? Shit, I don't know.
No, it would have
I
been
was,
right around when I just started my channel.
So I had never really heard anything about her claims before the trial happened. I just started seeing headlines about the trial in the news. I was like, oh, Johnny Depp, what's this? And then I was like, oh shit, this is crazy, because I was started seeing this stuff about her pooping in the bed and stuff. And I was like, what the hell happened? Like, I've been looking at the wrong corner of the internet, because I did not know any of this. But I remember like bits and pieces of that trial, because I wasn't following it very closely at all. And I remember just thinking like, wow, like, I don't know if anything that she said about him was true, but she's certainly been abusive herself. Like the fact that I had seen people on my Facebook timeline kind of like diehard Amber Heard fans or whatever, and I remember watching that and thinking, why the hell are you defending this person? Because there's like video evidence of her abusing him. So at the very least, she lied about a lot. So now you have to at least question that. Certainly you have to at least question that. I don't know.
Could I just say that if you're in a relationship with somebody and then you like defecate on the bed, there's no coming back from that. Then you all just gotta. There's no coming back from that.
I haven't tried it yet, so I'll let you know how that goes.
I mean, some people are into that thing, like the 2 girls, 1 cup. I still don't know.
Oh God, no! Please. Why does this keep coming up? Please, no.
It only comes up when you're on stream with me. I'm just for the record.
I feel like it's always like right on the surface of your brain or something, dude. Like,
you're the one who keeps on talking about defecation, man. You brought up the Amber Heard on the bed and stuff.
No, she brought it. No. They brought it up in court. I didn't bring it up. Technically, I brought it up, okay, but like only because someone else did.
I gotta address this question. I gotta put on my lawyer hat for just a second. See, you always come in and derail shit. I was doing like so good.
Yeah, well, I actually have to go because I'm having dinner at my mom's house. So.
Oh, well, look at you, just coming in and just like but I wanted, because people are confused about this. I'm confused about this one too. For an agreement to be legally binding and enforceable, it needs to be signed by all parties involved. No, it doesn't. And I'll tell you why. If you have, let's just say, you have an agreement with somebody, like, I don't know, your mom or something. Here, I will give you $50.
I would never disagree with my mother. All right,
I'm going to give you $50, and in return, you're
oh, yeah, she's giving me $50? No way I'm disagreeing with my mother.
Well, she'll give you $50 for that guitar or something, right? She buys that guitar off you for $50. You guys don't sign anything, right? Let's just, let's make it. Well, okay, a house. Let's just say a house. Houses are required to be in writing. They're required to be in writing because of the statute of frauds. But if you buy a house from your mom, and because it's family, we don't put anything in writing, and then you give your mom $500,000, and then you move into that house, and she says, "Well, actually, just kidding, bullshit. I don't want the house. I don't want this $500,000. I want my house back. We didn't put it all in writing, whatever." And you've moved in. You've been living there for a couple of months. Is the contract enforceable? Well, hell yeah, it is, because statute of frauds is a thing, but an exception to the statute of frauds is where the parties have so relied on the promises made in the promises that were made when they were forming the contract, that they've now relied on those promises. They picked up and shifted their entire lives. They've moved their where they live to a new house. They moved in all their furniture. They moved to a different city. They've quit their jobs. There's no way to undo what was done. So we're not going to just unravel the contract because it wasn't in writing. We're going to enforce the terms that were. And it looks like the terms that were was what was put in writing but never signed. And you know what? We're going to enforce a contract where one would normally be enforceable. Such is sort of the case in this one, where you have contracts that weren't signed. But what do we know? They contracted to make a movie. They contracted for Lively to play a role. They contracted for her to specifically work with the production cast and crew to produce this movie. They had nudity writers written up at meetings that she was present for. There was an understanding that she was going to be compensated for this, and they did pay her for all of this. And so they make the movie. She films a substantial amount of it. She proceeds to film the movie even without the protections that would have protected her from some of these allegations. And now you want to tell me that the contracts are unenforceable. No, there's no breach of contracts. Bullshit. The parties have acted as if a contract existed. She's been paid the way that they were contracting to pay her. They made the movie that they had planned to make. Even if they didn't abide by all of the terms, they still, what we know is there was a contract to make a movie. and she was going to get paid a certain amount and stuff like that. Even if it wasn't signed, it's now enforceable because we can't undo all of that. We can't just erase the movie from the public consciousness. She's not going to be required to give all the money back. She can't take back all the services that she provided. So you know what? For equity's sake, the contract is enforceable. We're going to enforce these terms. And to be clear, look, it's good to have contracts in writing, but a lot of times we don't have contracts that are written and signed by all the parties. Most of the time we're arguing these breach of contract cases, it's where something wasn't signed or there was some other thing that happened other than what was written. So now what do we do? Like, hey, we contracted to make this movie in New York, but we actually did it in Wyoming. So should we just void the whole contract? No, we're just going to change the language of the contract to reflect that it was built or that it was made in Wyoming. All the other stuff could survive. And so we do these kinds of things in law because it's necessary. Because believe it or not, lay people oftentimes are not as cautious as lawyers would be when it comes to operating under contracts. So that is my long-winded answer to Serenity's confusion about how an agreement could be legally binding even in the absence of signatures. I hope that was helpful. It probably wasn't.
It's decidedly unhelpful. So unhelpful that I'm leaving now.
I have totally bored Lauren Heidi. She's now leaving the stream.
No, I just got to go, man, because I don't want to keep him waiting too long. All right.
No,
thanks.
you're good, man. All right, Lauren. Well, have a good weekend. Be safe out there.
You too. Bye.
Oh, okay. Well, the stream is, well, that's because Fridays I typically record it in the office, and I usually do it in the late afternoon before I go home. It's just been my practice. On the weekdays when I stream, it'll be later at night because, it's work nights and stuff. And usually I'm busy at the firm. It's hard to stream during the day. So I try to stream earlier when I can. I will be streaming. I got 2 other streams to do after this one, which is, I'm going to wrap this up in about 15 minutes or so. So, I am a producer, and he is right on. Look at this, Chester's mom, also known as Chester's mom. How you doing, Chester's mom? What's up, Rob? How you doing, man? Winks and all the rest of you guys. We need to get an @Omar. I don't know what that means, Crow. I don't know if I can give you an @Omar, but what I can do is Omar after lunch. Exactly. What I can do is continue with what I was doing, which is this. So, just going through he's denying a bunch of stuff, and you guys kind of get the gist. Like, a lot of the complaints are like this. I'm just going to go through the highlights for time's sake. Let me get this off the screen. I'm not going to read from the complaint anymore, but these are the highlights from the complaint. I'm only going to talk about the admissions. We talked about Baldoni confirming the PR plan. There was a high-level meeting. He's denying any kind of claims that it was for retaliatory purposes. Wayfarer Studios, in conjunction with Justin, is essentially stating that the studio's answer aligns with Baldoni's on basic facts. He denies that it failed to address any misconduct. He agrees that Lively's safety demands were to facilitate her return to sets, that it wasn't for any kind of admission for inappropriate conduct, that the demands included an all-hands meeting. The company says it was responsive, not negligent. It was responsive to Lively's concerns. They underscored that it did investigate and implement certain protections, but she waived them. Wayfarer further admits that it retained Nathan and Tag for PR purposes because they knew that Lively was going to do this shit. It also admits that Tag sent out certain statements, that Baldoni Heath issued communications as quoted, but they specifically deny that any communications are accurately characterized as a malicious smear. In other words, it's her characterization or her interpretation of the text messages that were quoted that they were malicious, but they were not, which we already knew that they were going to do. They're denying orchestrating conspiracy plan, obviously. The 17 demands thing, hiring an outside producer, that was admitted. And that was pretty much it. Heath comes in, denies any misconduct or inappropriate behavior. He acknowledges that Wayfarer relayed a cast member's concerns to him. But he does not concede that those concerns were about sexual harassment. They were about other stuff. And we're going to get into what that was and other litigation. They're not going to be too detailed in answers because you don't have to. You just have to admit and deny stuff. Heath admits that Wayfarer agreed to Lively's list of 17 demands to address her concerns. He positions this as compliance with her request. It wasn't an admission of guilt. He admits that he attended the January 4th meeting with Reynolds, Lively, and others. He admits that the defendants engaged in a PR effort to combat what Lively was doing. He admits that there were communications sent between him and Justin. He does admit that there was a TMZ article that was published that contained a quoted text about Blake Lively, but he denies it was part of a smear campaign. Or was that it was intended to incite any kind of hatred towards Blake Lively. He's arguing that she kind of did that all by herself. He explicitly denies seeding or financing any campaign of hatred on social media. He also admits that in August of 24, Lively demanded that he issue a public statement to address the situation, implying that she felt maligned at the time. He says that he lacks knowledge of what Nathan might have communicated, but then denies any wrongdoing, all that kind of stuff. That's pretty much it. Sarah was just kind of, he is basically saying that he wasn't really involved in the day-to-day stuff. He denies any knowledge of any internal reports, flatly denies any concerns were ever shared with Wayfarer management, interestingly. He agrees that Baldoni did send a text about an actress's concerns, but denies that it had anything to do with sexual harassment again. He admits production was paused for strikes. Unlike Harold, he does not explicitly mention the 17 demands of Lively or Todd Black, for that mention, by name. What else? Oh, yeah. He does admit that Wayfarer agreed to the document that was attached in the complaint, while denying that it was an admission of misconduct. That is something that was new, that we didn't know before. He does acknowledge that Wayfarer hired Nathan and Tag for publicity and admits PR communications were made as quoted. He professes a lack of personal knowledge. So there was all of that. And let me scroll here. Yeah, that was it. So notable admissions, positions. All right. We went through Jamie Heath, Starowitz, and it ends with us and their answer. They admit that it implemented Lively's protective provisions. They admit that there was a January 4th meeting that took place. They admit that there were PR statements that were issued by Nathan, Tag, Baldoni, and Heath, as quoted in the complaint. I'm not going to rehash those. They admitted that filming wrapped on January 5th, and then that was it. It kind of reinforced the timeline that the production itself ended on good terms, that there was nothing weird going on. There's really not much there. Obviously, they're denying everything that Lively is saying. There's not anything that they admitted that would help her case, which is really all I'm looking for. Melissa Nathan specifically, she admits involvement in crafting a PR strategy. She framed it as PR work. She denied any intent to defame or retaliate. She admits that she was specifically hired, her and her firm, to handle the Lively situation. They called it the Lively situation. In other words, this is setting up really nicely for it's going to be an all-out war. So, look, Lively came out. They are saying that there was a smear campaign against Justin, and Justin knew about it. The reason why I say that Blake Lively is effed is because from the timeline, this is what we know. There was agreements. Lively shows up for production. Justin is there. They're friendly. They're on good terms. There's some weird text about no teeth Ryan Reynolds at some point starts having these outbursts towards Justin Baldoni. The entire set, because of the way that Blake Lively was behaving on set, it became so prevalent to the cast and crew, Baldoni and others, that they hired a PR firm specifically because they were fearful that Lively was going to leak weird allegations to the press. Now, you can say Lively's going to say that's because he knew that he was being inappropriate. We have no evidence of that. We've seen no evidence of that. We've seen the breadth of her allegations, and they don't make any sense, and I'm not going to rehash that. But if they knew and they were preparing for what appeared to be a smear campaign against Blake Lively, and we know that they're alleging that Lively was trying to take over the film, and we have evidence of that because she kind of did take over the film. She stripped Justin Baldoni of some filming credits. They lowered his meaning within the cast and crew and the overall film credits. They attempted to ostracize him. Reynolds specifically, and others in the PR campaign, going to influential people within the industry to call Justin Baldoni a sexual predator for reasons that we've already discussed. And in defense of all of that, they hire a campaign. You get this guy, Jed Wallace, in there, among all of these others. And they're ready for her. They're ready for her. But except the plan was to do nothing. Just let things happen organically. It looks like she's kind of already fucked. I think we're going to come out just fine in all of this. And then she launches a lawsuit. And she probably launched the lawsuit for a couple of different reasons. She probably launched it because she was perhaps already taking shit from people that cared about this movie and cared about her as an actress and Justin Baldoni as an actress, which prior to this lawsuit was infinitesimally small compared to what it is now. She wanted to defend her character because bad stuff was getting out there. Now she wants to be a victim. Problem with that is all these other people are involved now, and we kind of have a gist of what the claims and allegations are. And if that's all there is, if I'm just connecting the dots, man, it just looks like Lively has an uphill battle. And by the way, and I went through it on my stream a couple nights ago, the way that her attorneys are handling the pleadings is just such a bullshit way of writing. They're specifically writing for PR. Her attorneys are coming off as such pieces of shit. I mean, if you hated attorneys before, if your image of attorneys was already negative and you start reading some of that stuff, knowing the context of some of the things that we already know about how they are taking moments of vulnerability from Justin Baldoni and turning them into this exploitation to reference him as a sexual predator, it is just the most piece of shit thing you could possibly do from the perspective of an attorney. But the effect of that is that's rubbing off on Blake Lively. She's going to bear the brunt of all that. Nobody gives a shit about who these attorneys are. They don't care about them. They're going to move on from this lawsuit someday, and they will be forgotten 30 seconds after this case ends. Nobody will remember their names. We won't remember their faces. We won't remember what they look like. We might not even remember what they said. We'll know that they wrote like pieces of shit, but Lively and Reynolds are going to take the brunt of that. So, brilliant PR strategy by them. You know, perhaps they should stick to their day jobs because trying to run PR campaigns through legal pleadings is a shitty idea. It's not advisable. It's not advisable. At any rate, folks, that is the gist of these complaints. Hey, I got a super sticker from Aquanetta. How you doing, miss? It's good to hear from you. She's one of my new favorite subscribers. I've been seeing her around in the chat. Thank you for the $1.49 super sticker. Yeah, folks, this case is it's not going well for Blake Lively. There is a way to write. There is a way to attack. I think Brian Friedman is putting on a masterclass. They're letting Lively's legal team continue to stick their foot in their mouth. And I don't know. I'm starting to see where in the beginning of this lawsuit, it was really 50-50. Nobody knew who to believe. But at this point, I'm really struggling to find supporters of Blake Lively's in the light of all of this. Because we're just reading the pleadings, and there's a way that you come off. And her attorneys are just not doing very well. It's not an advisable strategy. So we'll see. These were just the answers. There's more to come. We're waiting on the decisions from the motions to dismiss. We didn't learn a whole lot new, but what we did know is that it's clear to me reading these answers what the strategy is. And the strategy is, from Lively's perspective, hey, they were retaliating against me and trying to smear my good name because they knew that there was inappropriate behavior. And then Baldoni's team is like, no, we knew that she was going to make these false allegations. And so we prepared ourselves, and then we kind of let her fall in the mud. That's the perspective that these two sides are heading towards. Thank you, Aquanata, with the $2. Thank you so much. I am not the best, but I appreciate the sentiment. I really do. Folks, I got a stream for Brian Koberger starting in about 5 minutes. I'm about to get ready for that. You guys are going to be redirected there if you don't have the link already. But folks, here they all come. All of a sudden. Jacqueline Strange with the 5. Thank you, but I'd like to hear more regarding the rants. Oh, what should I rant about? I got a lot more ranting to do. Jacqueline, I'm about to rant about some Brian Koberger stuff in about 5 minutes. I got a scheduled guest that I'm going to be talking with about that case if you're interested. And I certainly got more Baldoni coverage coming maybe this weekend. Tomorrow, I think I'm going to be talking about the Diddy case. I got that coming up. Thank you so much again for the 5. What's up, Winks? I see you in there too. And with the 5, chat is wondering your thoughts in 47.1. Well. Give me. I think I already closed it out. Let me pull it back up. Are you talking about 47.1 from Baldoni's answer? What specifically 47.1 are we talking about? Let me get these. All right. Alexander Redican 3 with a super sticker. I appreciate you so much. Not in. She filed in New York. It's not all. California law. Oh, hold on. Well, folks, I'd love to stay in chat. Oh, the choice of law. Are you talking about the choice of law? Are you talking about jurisdictional stuff? I think I addressed that in the motion to dismiss the other day about like which law is going to prevail. They're going to take some law from New York because of the CRD complaint. They're going to take some law from New York specifically because it was filed in New York. But more specifically, they are this is governed by the federal rules of civil procedure, but they've agreed to be bound by some of the protections under California and some of the protections in New York. And then there's another lawsuit that's being filed in Texas. That Texas case, and really all 3 states are bound under the federal rules. But California offers special protections for harassment claims as it pertains to employers and those that are victimized. They're going to have to specifically abide by California law. Now, the false light claims and things like that, they might not be a thing in New York, but they certainly are in California. To the extent that they apply in New York, that's going to be for the judge to decide. Katie says, no, they are asking about the new law in California Blake is trying to use in the motion to dismiss. Well, folks, I'm not really sure what you guys are talking about. I don't know if I read that last time or not, but I'm going to, I got to run. I got another stream starting in about 2 minutes. I hope to see you guys all in there. And if not, we're going to be doing a Brian Koberger stream. And then after that, we're going to do some family law after dark. So I will see you guys there. Have a wonderful weekend. And be safe out there. Bye-bye.